Have you ever noticed something strange about the way people talk about becoming a millionaire? Almost every conversation focuses on getting there. Save more money, invest consistently, build multiple income streams, stay disciplined, be patient. While all of those things matter, there is one question that almost nobody asks. What actually changes after you become a millionaire? Not the version you see on social media, not the one filled with luxury cars, private jets, and giant mansions. I'm talking about real life. Because if you ask people who quietly spent 20 or 30 years building wealth, many of them will tell you something surprising. The biggest changes don't happen in your bank account, they happen inside your mind. Today, we're going to explore the hidden side of becoming a millionaire. We'll talk about the psychology of money, why many wealthy people still worry about their future, why building wealth is often much quieter than people imagine, and why the person you become during the journey is far more valuable than the number itself. Before we begin, let me tell you a story. Michael worked as an engineer for nearly 30 years. He wasn't famous. He never built a billion-dollar company. He didn't inherit money or win the lottery. Every month he followed the same routine. He contributed to his retirement account. He invested in low cost index funds. He stayed away from unnecessary debt. He drove the same car for more than 10 years, while many of his coworkers upgraded every few years. Some people thought he was too careful, others joked that he never enjoyed life. Then one Saturday morning, while drinking coffee at his kitchen table, Michael opened his investment account. For the first time, his net worth had crossed $1 million. He smiled. He looked at the screen for a few seconds. Then he quietly closed his laptop. A few minutes later, he took the trash outside. That afternoon, he mowed the lawn. On Monday morning, he went back to work. Nothing around him suddenly changed. His neighbors didn't know. His coworkers didn't know. Years later, someone asked him what becoming a millionaire felt like. He smiled and said, "It honestly felt like any other Tuesday." That answer surprises people because we've been taught that reaching a certain number completely changes our lives. But real life usually doesn't work that way. Researchers who study happiness have found something fascinating. Human beings quickly adapt to positive changes. This idea is known as hedonic adaptation. Think about the last time you bought something you really wanted. Maybe it was a new phone, a new car, a new house. At first, you couldn't stop thinking about it, but after a few weeks, it simply became normal. Money often works the same way. The account grows, the excitement slowly fades. Then, your brain quietly starts chasing the next goal. 1 million becomes 2 million. 2 million becomes 5. 5 becomes 10. Not because people suddenly become greedy, because expectations naturally grow as life changes. Healthcare becomes more expensive. Retirement may last longer. Families grow. Responsibilities increase. The finish line quietly moves forward. Money absolutely solves many financial problems. It creates opportunities. It gives you choices. It can reduce daily financial stress, but money cannot automatically create peace of mind. Those are two completely different things. Imagine climbing a mountain for years. You believe that once you reach the top, everything will finally feel different. Then one day you arrive. You enjoy the view. A few moments later, you notice another mountain standing behind the first one. That is exactly how many financial goals feel. The destination keeps moving. One of the biggest surprises about becoming wealthier is discovering that financial confidence comes less from a specific number and more from knowing you have a reliable plan. Another hidden truth is that becoming wealthy is surprisingly boring. Social media loves exciting stories. Someone launches a business, gets rich overnight, buys a sports car, travels around the world. Real wealth usually looks very different. Automatic investments, monthly contributions, ignoring dramatic financial headlines, living below your income, choosing patience over excitement. These habits rarely go viral because they're ordinary. Yet, ordinary habits repeated consistently for decades often create extraordinary results. Many long term investors describe their financial lives using one simple word: routine. And perhaps that's the hardest lesson for people just getting started. We naturally love excitement, but wealth usually rewards consistency. Now, let's talk about something that surprises almost everyone. Many people believe financial stress disappears once they reach a certain number. Maybe it's $500,000. Maybe it's 1 million. Maybe it's enough to retire comfortably. The assumption is always the same: once I get there, I'll finally stop worrying. But life changes the questions we ask ourselves. Early in life, we worry about paying bills. Later, we worry about buying a home. Eventually, we begin asking different questions. Will my savings last? What happens if the market crashes? What if healthcare becomes more expensive? Am I making the right financial decisions? The problems change. The worrying often doesn't. Let's imagine two neighbors. David and Lisa have both been investing for years. One afternoon, the stock market falls sharply. Lisa checks her account and sees a loss of $4,000. She's disappointed, but she knows she has time to recover. David opens his account a few minutes later. His portfolio is down more than $200,000. Now think about that for a second. David is still financially secure. He still owns the same investments. His long term plan hasn't changed. But watching six figures disappear in a single week feels emotionally overwhelming. This is something behavioral economists have studied for decades. They discovered that most people experience the pain of losing money much more intensely than the happiness of gaining the same amount. It's called loss aversion, and it affects almost everyone, regardless of income. Money changes the size of the numbers. It doesn't change how the human brain works. Another thing nobody talks about is that becoming wealthier often means making more decisions. Early in life, your financial choices are simple: pay your bills, save a little, avoid unnecessary debt. As your assets grow, life becomes more complicated. Now you're thinking about taxes, retirement withdrawals, healthcare costs, insurance, estate planning, investment allocation, and protecting your family. Money stops being about earning. It becomes about making wise decisions. That's why many financially successful people continue learning throughout their lives. They understand that preserving wealth often requires more discipline than building it. Now, let me tell you another story. Rachel spent 25 years teaching at a public school. She wasn't chasing luxury. She simply followed a plan. Every raise she received increased her retirement contribution. She invested every month. She ignored market predictions. She stayed patient during recessions. By her early 60s, she had accumulated far more than she ever imagined. One afternoon, her grandson asked, "Grandma, if you've done so well financially, why don't you buy a bigger house?" Rachel smiled. She looked around her small backyard. The flowers she planted years ago were blooming. Her mortgage had already been paid off. Her neighbors had become lifelong friends. She quietly replied, "I already live where I want to live." That answer contains a lesson many people spend decades trying to learn. Real wealth isn't always about upgrading your lifestyle. Sometimes it's about protecting the life you've already built. One of the biggest mistakes people make is confusing income with wealth. Income is what comes into your life. Wealth is what stays. Someone earning $300,000 every year can still struggle financially if every dollar is spent. Meanwhile, another person earning much less but saving consistently may quietly become financially independent. The difference isn't always income, it's behavior. The gap between what you earn and what you spend is where financial freedom begins. Every permanent lifestyle upgrade creates another permanent monthly expense: a larger home, a newer car, luxury memberships, expensive habits. Individually, they don't seem significant. Together, they quietly increase the amount of money required just to maintain your current lifestyle. That's why some high income households still feel financially trapped. Their income increased, their obligations increased even faster. Now, let's talk about something even more personal. Money doesn't always change relationships. Sometimes it simply reveals them. Imagine spending 20 years quietly building your financial future. Then one day people begin realizing you've become financially successful. Some people celebrate your success, others begin comparing themselves to you. Some suddenly have business ideas they'd like you to invest in. Others assume you can solve their financial problems. The difficult part isn't the money. It's learning that people don't always react to success the way you expected. This doesn't mean wealth ruins relationships. It means healthy relationships become even more valuable. Many financially successful people eventually become more private, not because they're hiding, because they discover that peace has value too. Success doesn't need an audience, it only needs purpose. Another hidden danger appears after people achieve financial success: overconfidence. Someone experiences 10 years of successful investing and begins believing every decision they make will work. They start taking unnecessary risks, ignoring research, chasing quick profits. History has shown again and again that financial markets reward humility. No one predicts every market cycle. No one avoids every mistake. The investors who preserve wealth over decades usually aren't the luckiest. They're the most disciplined. Think of wealth like planting a tree. Growing it requires years of patience, watering it, protecting it, allowing time to do its work. But one careless decision can damage something that took decades to build. That is why patience remains one of the greatest financial advantages anyone can develop. So, what does becoming a millionaire really teach you? It teaches patience because wealth rarely appears overnight. It teaches discipline because consistency usually beats excitement. It teaches perspective because eventually you realize that money is a tool, not your identity. The account balance may grow, but your values should remain the same. Let's return to the question we asked at the beginning. What does no one tell you about becoming a millionaire? They don't tell you that the moment feels quieter than you expected. They don't tell you that your financial goals may continue moving. They don't tell you that wealth often looks surprisingly ordinary. They don't tell you that some of your greatest victories happen in silence. Most importantly, they don't tell you that the greatest reward isn't seeing a larger number on a screen. It's gaining the freedom to make choices without constant financial fear, freedom to spend time with your family, freedom to say no to opportunities that don't align with your values, freedom to handle unexpected challenges with confidence, freedom to focus on experiences instead of constantly worrying about bills. Those freedoms rarely appear in flashy social media posts, yet they are often the reason people start building wealth in the first place. Before we finish, I want you to think about one final question. Imagine two people. One has $10 million but spends every day worrying about losing it. The other has enough to live comfortably, sleeps peacefully, enjoys time with loved ones, stays healthy, and feels grateful for what they have. Which person is truly wealthier? The answer isn't found in a bank account, it's found in the quality of their life. Money is an incredible tool. It can create opportunities. It can reduce stress. It can help protect your future. But it was never meant to become the measure of your worth. If you're working toward your first million, or simply trying to build a stronger financial future, don't just ask how much money you're building. Ask what kind of life you're building along the way. Because one day, when you finally reach your financial goal, the number in your account won't be the only thing that matters. The person you've become during the journey will matter even more. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think is the biggest misconception people have about becoming a millionaire? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.